Oh, amazing.
That's hilarious. So to answer your question, we'd probably be looking at someone like Dr. Shanna Swan, who's the leading epidemiologist in America. She was on Rogan's show, and she wrote the book Countdown. So she's effectively a sperm doctor. She generated around, look, I don't have millions of viewers, right, and nothing close, but she generated over about 50,000 organic views.
Man.
Majority from New Zealand and Australia. No one out from America, sadly, is watching my content. Mind you, I did have an American comedian on, Casey Rocket out of Austin, Texas. He's part of the kind of Kill Tony Hinchcliffe crew. It's all about who has the biggest network online and social media following. So his one blew up. That was like across all platforms, almost 100,000 views, and that was great. But that's because he shared it.
So what tools are you using to measure success for these episodes?
Here we go. This is great. Are these all the questions that Seth Godin taught you through the B2B podcast world?
In my ear right here. I originally thought.
Sorry, just checking into Fox News anchor. Just tee up my next question now with Luke Farr over in New Zealand. Can you make the questions relevant to New Zealand, please?
Yes, exactly. But seriously, how do you measure success? Is it just by views? Is it
of the show based on the quality of the guests? So, for example, ever since I've just had Piper Heitzler on, views and ratings have skyrocketed, and now I want to be bought out by massive ad tech companies, right? So, no, but in all sincerity, it's about the quality of the guest. Yeah, I mean, look, the view rates and the
impressions,
average viewer duration time. I can look at all of that, but my show's so small that I don't measure success that way. Right now, I'm in building phase of the show, so it's about the quality and credibility of the guest. So any guest that comes on from Rogan's show, because he literally gets 10 million views per episode and is the biggest podcast in the world, that's a big win for me. And I've had 4 on the show. So, yeah.
Completely. And you told me when we first got on the call, but we weren't recording, that the Luke Farr show is meant to inspire and educate the youth. So if somebody was going to start their own mini podcast,
than I have.
If they were going to start their own podcast, what would you tell them?
Oh, wow, what a great question. Hang on. Dude, this is all strategized. You knew about this an hour ago. You're like, right, first I'm going to drop the bomb where he's going to interview me in about 10 days. Secondly, I'm going to write questions and flip the script on this and interview the interviewer.
No question.
And then also I'm going to drop a bomb and say I'm actually cheekily recording now. So, yeah, I could have actually gotten away with not telling you. However, I'm enjoying you interviewing me.
You have my consent.
Yeah.
Now, later.
Oh, I love that. And to answer your question, there's a lot of ways I can answer that, but yeah.
What's your gut reaction? I don't want to hear the prophet of podcasts. I want to hear your talking to a friend.
Yeah, I effectively just stalled that question because I forgot what the question was. So just on repeat. Yeah, let's just go back to the anchor. Go back to the anchor there.
Yeah, back to repeat. The Luke Farr show is meant to inspire and educate the youth. If somebody wanted to start their own podcast out of their home on their sofa, drinking a cup of coffee in the morning, where would they start?
Yeah, good one. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, exactly there on their sofa with a cup of coffee, LinkedIn messaging people that they actually genuinely care about and are curious about, because that's where it all started for me. I reached out to, I think it was actually, this is a bit of a plug for her, but Stephanie Liu out of LIU, out of San Diego. She's massive in the content marketing space. She runs a very successful online chat show. It's called 321 Live. She does a lot of like more on the B2B space. But anyhow, I get her on the show, right? This is actually quite a funny story because here I am, literally, like you said, sitting on my couch with a coffee, but getting ready to set up the Zoom, and like the lighting is absolutely horrific. The angle is completely fucked, excuse my French, and everything just looks so bad. And so she comes on, and obviously because she's a pro and her like immaculate lighting, she's got the DSLR camera all properly set up, and so the
candle burning,
you can still
flowers.
watch this. This is the first interview 3 years ago. You can actually still watch it because sadly I've still kept it up there. But just the hilariousness of the contrast between every time I go to chat, it is just the most horrific. And also my questions, because I'm just getting into interviewing and not really that prepared, and it was horrific. But every time we'd switch back to her, you just see this perfectly nice square, and the lighting's amazing. She's got her makeup done and she's gorgeous. And then like my laptop, like even the angle, like my head's like hanging over this laptop, and like it is so bad. But to answer probably, I mean, that doesn't really answer your question, but
have good lighting. We'll start with that. Maybe test your lighting.
I'll tie that into the theme. Well, actually, funny enough, this is my point. My brother will hate to hear this because he's a videographer and they create content and it's got to look perfect. But I take the TikTok view, really. I go, like the value is in what we're saying. Sure, people need to, like, because it's visual, it needs to be half okay. But the value is what's coming out of not just the questions I'm asking the guests, but it's really the audio. I don't want people really to watch. I just want them to put headphones on and to be listening to the value that's coming out of that guest's mouth. I don't want them sitting there going, the angle's not juxtaposing and the lighting's off and rah, rah, rah. It's not a Hollywood film. So I'd say to people, don't get all so caught up in production value. Make sure just the guests are credible, they're insightful, and you know your audience. It's all about the audience, right? For me, it was about the youth first and foremost. But then once I looked at the data, it's actually not about the youth. It's about anyone that wants to just learn and acquire knowledge.
Mm-hmm. And how much background do you do, or background research do you do on the guests coming onto your show?
A lot. For example, to hit you with it. You were once a trader at Steelhouse in LA.
Yes. So you have my LinkedIn profile up on your computer as we speak. Amazing job, Luke.
You're like, that's so good. You're like, look, you're not that fancy, mate. You just went through my LinkedIn.
Yeah, exactly. Like, tell me my favorite color.
Solutions engineer. Then you were a manager of global solutions engineering to now head of growth, EMEA region, which I assume is Eastern Mediterranean. No.
Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Correct. Yes, I did. Yeah, and that's the research I need to do, right? At Amobi, for 6 years. Amobi, for people out there that don't know, is a leading DSP place for advertisers and agencies, and a buy-side pillar of Tremor International's end-to-end technology stack. Which, my first question to you really was, what does that even mean? But anyway, back to your answer about research.
Yeah, beyond LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Do you use Google as well?
Hey, this is good. This is like Saturday Night Live. insert band here. No, but I in all sincerity, after you do obviously all the standard LinkedIn, Googling, find out, what platforms they've been on, if they've been interviewed before, then sort of understand or framing the questions that you're asking that are not only relevant to your audience who are watching or listening, but are different because it's all about your USP, your unique selling point, your differentiator. Like, how are you setting yourself apart as a host and an interviewer to the millions that are out there running shows? And so in my head, psychologically, I'm not going to ask just those generic kind of questions. And so you'll find with my interviews, although they're very candid and we bounce around, but I don't tie myself into like the genre, and I don't want it to be too premeditated, and I like to keep my guests on their toes. For example, I'd ask you a B2B question around a Mobi, and then we might flip into, I could ask you, give us some like hot dating tips for when you were single that really worked for men out there, that you know what I mean? Like it would just be so random, and but because all I'm trying to do is keep my guest engaged and listening before they hit the let's get out of here, I'm bored already. And for example, this interview, I think we've kept them on pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not going to be used, but this would have been.
Oh, is it not?
Oh,
well, in that case, thanks for your time.
Used.
Bye now. No. Oh my God, I'm so reviewing this though.
I guess you don't want to hear my dating tips.
Yeah. Oh, what a shame. I had like 3 full pages, Luke.
Completely.
Actually, to be fair, funny. I actually had a guest on once. She was like pretty high up. She was, I can't confirm whether or not, I mean, maybe she was CEO or she was in the C-suite anyway, but I don't know how the interview turned. Like, I think I did one cheeky question, but then she went down the rabbit hole with it. Because we started talking about like dating specifically in the corporate world, and yeah, she just divulged some very interesting stories. Obviously, as you know, like a woman in the boardroom and getting it on constantly, but then guys that are wearing suits that try to be really subtle about it, but they're not subtle about it. and it was just very interesting insight. So, and she let me post it too.
Oh, amazing! So you do how much post editing to these sessions?
0, and that's the other value of it. That's all.
So all the back to the studio, look up Steph Lou, put that in the notes. That's not going to be included.
I mean, there was a guest on the other day, and it was so incredibly awkward. Her doorbell went off, and she's like, "Oh my God, I've been waiting for this courier for so long. I've just got to rush down there." So that type of part, any other host of a show would cut that out. But then I used the opportunity as she left the screen to actually do a little, like a commercial for my sponsor that sponsors the show. So, and then I was
And who is that?
Insert plug here. Oh, thank you. So great question. You would make a great interview.
Your new host.
I was just teeing you up, right? And then boom, autophagyskincare.com, which allows your skin. Yeah, anyway. But no, so I think those types of random moments are key, you know, and yeah, it all goes back to that cliche word, authenticity, genuineness, and just being yourself, and not being Fox News, right? Like, oh no, edit that part out. That's not our bias and narrative. No, they're talking right-wing politics. No, cut that out.
Okay. So, okay, to be honest, the word authenticity is used a lot. I use it a lot too, in a very meaningful way. But how would you describe authenticity? Like authenticity from a guest. Like you told me today, I was like, is there anything I can prepare? And you were like, just come as your authentic self. And I was like, well, talk about a little fairy dust, you know? But what is come as your authentic self mean? Because I think in the workplace.
Fantastic question from you yet again, Piper Heitzler, and from obviously that research that you've been doing over the last 48 hours to turn this interview into your own. So credit where credit's due there. Authenticity, I would break down to a role model act that I'll do right now, because excuse me, I just need to go grab more coffee, and I will be back to answer that question. And you can talk a little bit more about autophagy skincare at the moment.
Okay, we'll do a plug. Luke Farr is still looking for sponsors in any category. Anyone that thinks that they are aligned with this content, with anybody who has been on the show, there is a very open catalog of opportunities of 15, 30-second, 60-second spots available for purchase. The audience, as you can hear, has 50,000, even 100,000 views. And if you're considering your brand, send it to Luke Farr and it will be immediately accepted.
Oh my God, you're absolutely hired to be my agent. That was phenomenal. I wasn't aware that I was going to be doing, or my guest was going to be doing a LinkedIn testimonial read for the Luke Farr show. That's good. Back to your question. It is a good question, which I got a lot on around how to be authentic and what does it mean effectively? Because it is bellied around a lot. But the funniest part, I think that especially in the and we're just talking corporate world here, but the word so far used that I think people have gotten so far down the rabbit hole of putting a facade on to attempt to be a true authentic version of themselves, but really they're just fucking acting the whole time, but acting so well that their peers and stakeholders and clients and everyone thinks that they're being their true authentic self until that person asks them out to either a social event that's completely non-business related, and then they see that person that they thought was X persona in an environment with their actual social friends, and they're like, holy fuck, this person's a fraud.
Completely. I think that's probably more true for people that have been working for a longer period of time. The newest demographic of like Gen Zers, I think they really focus and prioritize on being their authentic selves. I remember somebody was getting passed off to another team, and my boss asked me, would you like to take on this sales development representative? You need somebody on your marketing team. And I was like, yeah, sounds great. So I remember having my first meeting with her. It's her first job out of uni. She's like maybe 4 or 5 months in. And I get on the call like, hi, how are you doing? How's your day going? And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungover. I went out with a guy last night and I just too much transpired and it shouldn't have. And she's like, I'm just emotionally feeling so guilty right now. How are you? And I was like, wow.
That is amazing. Like
radical honesty.
And what a gamble though, because if she got someone on the receiving end that probably is not as open-minded as yourself and like a real straight edge cookie cutter, like they'd just be like, you're fired, see you later. Like
absolutely. And that moment of just like genuineness endeared me to her in a way that we are still so close, years later. And we have this very like cute kind of like mini me relationship. And it started in that one moment when I'm like, I want someone that's willing to be 100% honest about whatever's going on. Like the positives, the negatives, are you bored at work? Are you not? Are you fulfilled? I think all the range of emotions is what we need to show people.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. That's great what you've just said. I think and also the biggest thing is, I think that the people that are authentically true to themselves and being the true version of themselves are the ones that have nothing riding on the line, i.e. a lot of money in the bank. So for example, if they were to be fired for being their authentic self, like this is the thing, the people that are playing the game and drinking the Kool-Aid, right, are the ones that got a lot riding on the line. They still might be like, from maybe generational wealth or whatever, but they might be like leveraged to the eyeballs. So they're like needing their 200 grand salary week by week. They got a lot ticked up, right? Versus maybe that woman out of uni, she might have 50K in the bank. So she's like, you know what? If I was to be fired today, I wouldn't give a flying fuck. Like, so therefore,
maybe like $200 in the bank.
Yeah, exactly. She can afford to be a true authentic self, and I think that's powerful. A lot of us are like sort of walking around on eggshells being like, shit, I'm needing this role.
It's a good spot to be in when you don't need that, I think.
Oh, it's powerful. Who was talking about it the other day? It was Jordan Peterson. Not sure what your thoughts are on that, man. I mean, a lot of women bellow his reputation around as being a misogynist. But anyway, I'm not for or against him. I'm just saying something he said.
I'm just
You're
doing a quick Google search.
You're just doing some research.
I'm doing a bit of Luke Farr research.
For that follow-up question before the ad break.
Okay, Jordan Peterson, we've got a Canadian psychologist, author, and media commentator. Great. Birthday's June 12th. I think that makes him a Libra? Yeah, anyways.
I hope on one tab you've got up there the Luke Farr show and our riveting organic subscriber rate of 400.
Honestly,
of 400.
Let's see if videos even comes up with it. Gosh. Do you do Google Ads?
Here we go.
Speaking of B2B, let me help you out. God.
I know what this is. You're head of growth. I forgot. You're actually going to, at the end of the call, be like, actually, before I depart, I'd like to set you up with one of our consultants to talk about how our trading platform can help the Luke Farr show. I'm on to you. No.
I'll be sending this as a friend. Do these 10 steps to grow your business and audience. In an authentic way.
Do I have permission to post this after you leave that company?
You can absolutely post this at some point. You can post this you can post this once you've asked me one day to be the other host on your show and interview other people for you. And then people will ask, oh my gosh, how did you and Piper get hooked up to do this? And you'll be like,
sorry, great soundbite there. That would literally be at the start. How did you and Piper get hooked up? ... And then segue into you talking about that new hire that you're buddy with, that I'm sure you've shared many a hangover with.
Me? Drink? No.
Negotiation skills we could talk about there, because you just used a small seed into a negotiation, i.e., hey, look, what I will. This is the part of the deal that I'd like to present, which is you can only post this if I become what's in it for me type strategy. Very smooth from you. I'll circle back with you. I'll have to think about it. Insert. Now we'll test your objection handling skills, because obviously head of growth and a salesman, you'd be very capable. How do you handle objections in the B2B space in 2023?
I don't really try to answer objections. I think I'm actually brutally honest. I can tell you in a number of meetings I've been in, I've gotten through, not the pitch, but sat through probably 30 minutes of learning about their business, telling them a bit about ours. And they've been like, okay, what do you think? And I'm like, you don't need this technology. Or I'm like, you do need this, don't pay for that. Go over here and use these folks, or like, your programmatic spend is at a place where I would advise you to probably continue pushing more money into the social channels, and not until you kind of reach that peak of seeing performance drop off or frequency getting really high. Like, then we should move into programmatic. And if you're going to move into programmatic, like, why don't we just start with some AdWords, some SEO? Like, let's see how navigation's going to your site from there, analyze the traffic. Do you even need programmatic? I'm like, I think a lot of people feel they hear buzzwords and then they instantly think that they need that technology, when really they're not prepared to have it. CDPs, or used to be data management platforms, now customer data platforms. DMPs are all about anonymous, holding anonymous data for the purposes of digital advertising, targeting, frequency capping, analytics, etc. But CDPs are all about connecting that back to PII data.
At one time right now, which I need to digest. Completely. Sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
So when CDPs, customer data platforms, became a very talked about topic, I had a ton of people that were coming to me and asking if they needed a CDP. And ultimately, any piece of software is like giving somebody a car, but if they don't know how to drive, they're not going to make use of whatever you hand them. So a lot of people hear about the fact that it's a great car, they want a car, but until they're ready to learn how to drive, it's not really purposeful. So there's a lot of other alternatives you can give them that are probably appropriate for where they're at. So to go back to objection handling, I am probably the worst, but also best salesperson, because I don't want to give something to someone if they're not going to use it in the way to get the best value out of it, because it's just going to be harder for them to get off the platform, and then they'll have a negative experience of working with me.
You're going to be the best consultant in the world, even if you're A, working for a company that are paying you to pitch their product, or B, when you're out on your own and can offer them a spread of solution providers. Like, I can imagine some meeting with you at a Moby, you'd be sitting there being like, actually, I do think it's a good idea to take that quarter page out in the yellow pages. Print's still thriving for top of funnel activity. You don't need a demand side platform or supply.
To be honest, yeah, I would absolutely do that.
Oh, that is so good. That's so good. Have you ever heard the technique, which I still use today? I learned it in my first sales role. It's called feel, felt, found. So you say, for example, so you give me an objection. You're like, look, no, your competitors come through. They're offering a far better rate, right? Just as a role play scenario. You turn around and you go, I understand how you feel. So you show them empathy. A lot, like it sounds really corny how I'm delivering it right now, but it actually does work.
Yeah.
You say, I understand how you feel. And then you do, so it's feel, felt, found. And then you do the felt category, which is Jones theory. You say, a lot of my clients actually initially felt the same way. So it's also unbiased, like psychologists came up with this. But what they've found, so it's not your biased pitch, what they've found, and then you just go straight into the features and fucking benefits of the pitch. I understand. A lot of my clients used to feel the same way, but what they've found is if you fly Ryanair, not only are you going to get cheap gin, but you're actually going to get sold a fucking dishwasher at the same time.
So this makes you the perfect snake oil seller. And like I could never deliver that sentence. Really didn't believe in it. I think I would just start laughing to myself.
True, authentic self.
Yeah, it's not my genuine voice. Yeah, whatever that's meant to be. But no, I'm very mindful that people shouldn't.
Can we just tee up an ad break, please? We're losing them. Can we tee up an ad? Okay. Where's your list of questions? You're supposed to be interviewing me, remember?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get back to it.
This is like literally the best interview I've ever had. You've raised the bar.
Let's see. I have a good idea. I have a good question.
No, you ladies first. Your question first. Sorry, you go. Yeah.
Fantastic. Chivalry is not dead. So I think what happens if you're an entrepreneur like yourself, or even an intrapreneur sitting within a company trying to create new things, is you kind of get into a rut where you're like, what do I do next? Luke Farr, when you get into a rut, what do you do to create new ideas or decide where to strategize or what projects to prioritize in the future?
I first and foremost, and this is not me being a snake oil salesman, but I really, really like that question. And I think the reason why is I think you came up with that literally in the moment. Obviously, you seem like a very smart, intelligent woman. You say, I mean, look, I've never met you, but you come across like that. And anyway, but long story short, I'm pretty sure that was that came in the moment there. So
it did.
That wasn't off that screen that you're looking to over on the left.
Oh, do you want to know what I was looking at? Oh my gosh, you're totally gonna laugh. Sorry, I have to disconnect this to show you. This is like, welcome to my crib. Just kidding. Hold on, I just lost you for a sec.
You're gonna Piper Heitzler's MTV Cribs now. This is phenomenal. Oh my god!
So
is that your vision board?
It is. It is. I actually host a vision boarding party every year for a group of people, and it's super fun. And each person brings 3 magazines, and then they have to cut out over like an hour and a half everything that they want to do in the next year. And it originally started like 4 or 5 years ago. And I included like friends from different parts of my life. So everybody would come in, they would make their vision board, and then they had to stand up and present it to the rest of the group. And you tend to learn really funny things about people when they're doing this sort of activity that you typically wouldn't, even if you're friends with them on a day-to-day basis. So
that is the coolest.
This year,
that's awesome. I love that. That's great.
Yeah. So we made our vision boards at the beginning of this year in like mid-January, because a group of us were really trying to do dry January. So this was like a great way for us to get together but not drink. I just want to mention that two of the people.
I guarantee how it went down in like the first hour. Everyone's got the magazines doing their presentations, and then I guarantee after that hour, people are like, well, "Should we just have one, Vino? We'll just have one. We'll just have one."
Just one glass of wine. I stayed strong, for the record, but we did have two people that fell into the trap of drinking that day. One person had fallen apart the day before, and there was probably like 10 or 12 of us that managed to stay strong for the afternoon. I quickly broke it, I think 3 days later. So I did not make it through January by any means.
I mean, because let's talk California versus like living in London. Everyone knows massive drinking culture, just like the Kiwis in Australia. But also Americans are big drinkers. It's just not sort of globally on the map. But in your experience from a Californian, you know, from growing up and then now like living in London, like who would you say out of the Brits and the Americans are, well, fundamentally the biggest alcoholics?
Definitely the Brits.
They are, right. They're another level. Like their like lunch client meetings start at 11 a.m. and they don't get back to the office till 3, and they put that under relationship building.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a breakfast meeting here, you walk past a pub, it's already packed. So that's what they definitely win in this category. But on the wall, I have not only the vision board, but I also have all of the Post-it notes of things that I'm proud that I've done in my work life at this point.
I think that's in all honesty, I think that's an important part to. It's like self-reflection and being proud of that. Like New Zealanders, we've got this thing. I don't know if you have heard of the term tall poppy syndrome, where it's about, you know, just bringing others down. Everyone wants to be equal. You know, it's kind of like the crabs in the bucket philosophy.
The old crabs in the bucket philosophy. I haven't heard of that one. Do tell. Can you translate that?
That's actually extremely awkward because crabs in the bucket is a Canadian term and you are American. So that's authentically awkward, and I'm just going to call that out. So the tall poppy syndrome philosophy coined actually out of New Zealand once again. I think we also started baked beans. But anyway, it's the premise where the whole of the country in an ideal world wants everyone to be equal and to not strive, and meritocracy is hated upon, and we want to live in a cute little land full of daisies and poppies and live off the land and all be equal, and no one can be an outlier and be successfully their own independent human. So that's that theory. And so to tie that back into how you write up everything you're really proud of and you own that and talk about that, I think that's such a great tool and an activity, because it makes you feel good. You know what I mean? Completely.
And it's not necessarily all successes for yourself. Like, let's see, one of them that's right here says learning how to receive and give constructive criticism. Like,
oh my God,
you know, things.
This is interesting.
It's not like, oh, you had this like great award or something. It's really about like fundamentals of just being a good person, being a good teammate, being a good manager. Yeah, that's all the combination it is.
So did you write that up because is that as like your sort of genetic self as it is challenging for you to take on constructive feedback?
No, I actually did this whole process because I have a fabulous business coach who I would love to plug here, Catherine Lebeau. She's French.
Sure.
Catherine with a C,
hit the gram, hit the website,
Cath,
insert website here. Yeah,
yeah,
www.
Erine, and then last name Libous. And she is fabulous. And she told me to create this kind of like wall of greatness with some post-it notes. And I made it, and now it just kind of like sits there. And I tend to add to it. And it's a nice little reminder when you're stuck in that rut, or when you're trying to think of what to do next, or wondering, what am I doing here? You can kind of look back and be like, oh, this is what I do it for.
Show's smoothly moving towards the Oprah Winfrey show. Yeah. Open up your heart chakras and tell me your biggest, deepest desires in this world. Anyway, thank you for the plug for Catherine, whatever her name is. Anyway, back to the Luke Farr show, because I'm a narcissist. It's all about me. You can find out more of our amazing guests on rah. No, just being an absolute dickhead. I like the sound.
So going back though, but what do you do to get out of a rut?
Yeah, what do I do to get out of a rut? But also, we got so entangled in the just natural conversation, we didn't actually address that, because you asked a really good question. Remember the one when you're either an intrapreneur and an entrepreneur, but you're working?
Oh yes.
And yeah, what is it you do when you're feeling stuck or you can't move forward and things like that? Like, there's been many moments where I'm working for companies that you sit there and you're like, what is this wrong? Like the job title is different than the recruiter sold me. The job description is like completely up the wazoo, and now I'm doing like all of these different things, and you're sitting there sometimes really like not for example, not that productive, right? And then your brain starts thinking, and you sort of like, you might have creative ideas, or it depends on how your brain, your neuro pathways think on a day-to-day level. But if you are sitting there either hating what you're doing, or you're just not sure, or if you got like a burning idea, I think the biggest call to action in this really long-winded sentence, I'm quite good at doing those, really missing the punchline too, I'm great at doing that. But
trim that part.
And this is biased because I am from a sales background, but picking up the phone, either talking to someone that's like in an industry, or doing something that you want to do. Like, once again, another shout out to LinkedIn, but like, everyone's on there. You can find people. You can even find, insert another plug for Lusher plugin tool. So you can find people's mobile numbers. I love Lusher. They're not a sponsor for the show, by the way, but Lusher is great.
Yeah.
But anyway, find the mobile number, pick up the phone when you're in that state, in that current momentarily state of not knowing what to do and thinking you're not being that productive, is pick up the phone, speak to a thought leader or a mentor in the space you want to be in. Start getting a bit creative with it. Asking them questions, do a little bit of homework on them. Hopefully they're going to stay on the phone and talk to you. Next part to that, though.
I was just going to ask though, how many times do you surprise call somebody you don't know? They're like your third degree connection, and they sit on the phone like, oh, Luke, please, I've got plenty of time for you.
Yeah, exactly. All the time. And it's that small 20-second window. Yeah, 100%. It's that small 20-second window where you need to say it really quick, which I like to call the value trigger. You're from high growth, you know all about this, the value trigger, but you need to give them a reason to stay on that phone call. Like, it's not everything about what I want as the caller. It's being like, it's looking at it from their perspective and offering them value somehow. I don't know how that might be. I mean, obviously I've got an easy tool to throw in, because I can be like, oh, actually, I think you're a great fit for the show. It'd be lovely to have you on as a guest to come on the show. But here's what I really want. And then you can start the negotiation. But I think a lot of people are, and look, this is once again biased because I come from a sales background. So picking up the phone comes naturally to me. That's hard for some people. But if you're having these phone conversations with the people that you admire, you trust, and like, and want to be effectively, you're sort of just on that roadmap and journey to getting where you want to go by hearing from people that you look up to.
Completely. So your value trigger, as you mentioned, was pretty easy, because you have a show that you think that they would be great on, and that's like a win-win. You probably get the advice that you want, and you might get to have a great guest. But let's say I don't have a show. How do I decide what that value trigger is? I want to call somebody, I want to talk to them. I'm not a very phone calling person. How do I run it? How do I practice? How do I make it work? Can we role play?
Another question off the cuff of your head, which is phenomenal. You're obviously a very smart individual. I think you've got to quickly identify the personality trait and human nature of the person that you're talking to. For example, if accountants or lawyers, I mean, there is a very general, I'm saying general, but there is a general trend of their persona type. Mm-hmm. Like an accountant's going to be to the people that out there that are going to listen to this, who are going to be very, very riveted. But the accountants, a majority of accountants out there are fairly dry. They're not ones to elaborate. They're generally quite introverted. They're not really emotionally charged. Their spreadsheets, their facts, they want you to get to the story very quickly, which they obviously hate me because I take a very long time to get around it. So, for example, first step is understanding who it is you're talking to. And when you don't have a value trigger or don't have a chat show like I do, if you've done enough homework, obviously it is challenging too, because all of it is facade online, but you can make some generalizations that might help you in that phone call, i.e. if someone on the other end is empathetic and you authentically say the sentence, I'm calling you today because I actually admire your career path. I love what you've done. So all you're doing there is just stroking their ego. They're going to love that. Everyone loves to be told how great they are. And I'm admiring to be like you. And then into the question, you need to ask them a question after you've literally falsely
stroked their ego.
And then hopefully if they are a genuine human-centric person, they'll turn around and people generally on this earth want to help people.
Completely. So back to the purpose, inspiring and educating the youth. There you go. That's how you pick up the phone, talk to somebody, generalize their personality.
Love it.
Based off of their internet presence.
Love it how
then pick up the phone.
I love it how I'm just getting free plugs along the way here. This is great. Yeah. By the way, it's to motivate, educate, and inspire the next generation of leaders, but nonetheless,
motivate, educate. All right, let me.
Can you just write that part down?
I actually am. I might have to say it one day when you make me a host. And
oh my God. I'm definitely going to loop you in for a show. In fact, I feel like I'm like doing what Tony Hinchcliffe does on his comedy show, insert plug here. Cool Tony show is great, by the way. But they they get like certain guests on, and then they're like, oh, actually, you're quite talented. Actually, you can come and be a part of our next show. Yeah, so that's going to happen. This will be a thing.
Completely. Well, we are coming up to our hour. I don't know if there's any final remarks you want to make to close this episode.
Yeah, to the this is the debut this is the debut of the Piper Heitzler show. Actually, what's your tagline? Oh my God, that is
looking for inspiration somewhere.
It's the first time I've heard you speechless.
Let me come back to you.
That is so good. In all sincerity, what are you going to be consulting on?
Consulting on, I'm really focused on working with startups.
Look over to that vision board.
Yeah, exactly. Let me pull up a piece of the magazine right here. No, I really enjoy working with startups to like medium-sized businesses that are in that rut, that need to figure out what they're going to do to grow themselves. And I love the idea of bringing leaders out of their day-to-day and the everyday responsibilities that they have to help them create kind of that dream big strategy, and then help them see how advertising can build into that strategy itself. And then ultimately what tends to happen when people work with consultants is that they have this big plan, but no one's there to help them execute it. So similarly, they tell them about the car, they give them all the great features, they even hand them the keys, but someone still has to drive it. So I'm really focused on being there to not only help them create the strategy, but also be an, entrepreneurial execution engine to bring that strategy to life through some short-term projects that can help to create results and outcomes for them that they can see within probably a 3 to 6 month window to determine if they want to continue forward.
That sounds great. What are your thoughts on this? I used to do this in Toronto, but I still want to execute on it. It's definitely hitting the SME market, but with like always on content, right? But purely video content, but taking the Gary V model, which is the authentic, inferior, always on content, right? So you take, for example, let's just take a mechanic shop in London. Actually, to be fair, a mechanic's probably not a fucking good example. But anyway, please, please, me being my authentic self, but let's take the mechanic. Actually, he's probably got a website. He's probably got some shitty ass Yellow Pages ad. He might take an ad out in the local newspaper, and if he's explorative in his realm or world, he might have an AdWord. In fact, he probably does have an AdWord, and he might have a social media page, but he's lacking constant, always on content. And we used to do this in Toronto. So I'd hire a videographer. In fact, I started a small video production agency off this model. We'd target SME market, highly profitable model, hybrid approach, didn't need offices. It was great. And I want to start it again. But anyway, so SME market, hitting them with your videographer that charges you a day rate anywhere between $500 to $800 a day, plus editing.
Yeah.
So you've got a full day with a videographer to shoot so much content. So you go into that mechanic, right? You're understanding his ICP, you're understanding his audience, you're understanding where they live online. And all you're doing is coming up with creative themes and small snack-sized pieces of video content that you're just loading to his YouTube channel, loading to his Facebook, loading to his Gram, that you can just drip feed for a long time. Obviously, you don't shoot too much content because you need to look at the cash flow model. And so, but you want to be kind of you want to be shooting down there. I mean, who knows? One day you might get 3 weeks of content, daily posts, right? Out of that.
Yeah, completely. I think for me, I'm not necessarily looking at it from a social media perspective, but sitting down with them and being like, how do you get your clients? How do you get recurring clients? Like, are they even coming through online? Or is online now a whole incremental acquisition model that you're not using before because you have kind of these prints or ads? So it's like, how do we build into the business a way to even track how customers interact with your business? First of all, so then we have some data to start with, which is like, how are we going to build our strategy from here? If it's really focused on local and it's word of mouth, like how far are people tending to come from? Businesses are getting tons of data from their own customer bases that they can use to put in their postcodes and map that on a dashboard and be like, wow, it looks like 75% of my customers come within a 15-mile radius.
Yeah,
how does that change?
You, but you're going to be really not to box you, but and sorry to interrupt you, but you're going to be a data consultant, right?
A data strategy execution consultant. I mean, previously it's been more focused on like startups that are like D2C brands, typically. So that's a whole different model. Typically, like like an online based, like an app business or a like CPG product, or even just a like a retail product. That's a very different analysis of customer data and distribution channels than you have for your local mechanic. But the premise is understand the business today. How do you get your customers? How do you want to get your
circle
customers?
back from you back to that mechanic that you talked about, Luke.
Yeah, but the fundamentals are, where are you getting your customers today? How do we make sure that you're getting as many of those customers as you can within that segment? And then what are incremental audiences that you can tap into using digital advertising?
I like the sound of that. Yeah. I'm actually looking for a new sponsor, and funny enough, a lot of our viewers and audiences are in that SME market looking for exactly what you're offering. So could be a good fit to sponsor the Luke Farr Show. Yeah, we can talk about that.
Could be a good fit. Way to feed it back to me.
The co-host / sponsor of the show. Actually, that'd be comical, eh? It's like the new co-host has come on, and really all we're doing is pitching a new brand, a new company.
Yeah, completely. Are we gonna tie this one off? Say goodbye.
Yeah, for sure. No, we do need to. Yeah, no, I'm getting the hint for sure. Yeah, it's like, but I'm looking at the clock going, Jesus Christ, I forgot about that business I am consulting for, and I told them that I'd be in by it's 8:35. But that's the beauty of, if they find out, don't give a fuck. I don't know.
Completely.
But thank you for obviously you've got an appointment that you're running late for, because that's twice now you've been like, should we really wrap this up?
Should we? I do. I have to jump on another call I'm late for. I have actually pushed it back just a smidge, but I want to make sure that you have your full recording, which cannot be aired for a while.
Oh, of course not. No, but I just need to take up 6 minutes of your time, because I just need to get through this big picture just for everyone on the Luke Farr Show. So if you don't mind waiting there no, I'm just kidding. Hey, I'll let you go, but thank you very much for coming up. We will. I'm going to review this because there is some absolute gold in here.
Absolute gold. Okay, thank you so much, Luke.
And we'll do the just LinkedIn. Pop me a LinkedIn when you're ready to effectively once you've left your company.
Yes. Okay, you can stop recording.
Oh, sorry.